Hi, I'm Maya, and today I want to talk about Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. So, a quick summary: Anna is having an affair with Vronsky. She's cheating on her husband, Karenin. So, that's one story. And then the other story that's going on at the same time is Levin's story. And he falls in love with Kitty, and he's having a crisis of faith. Well, in the fact that, he hasn't had faith, he's been struggling with believing that God's real. And so, those are the two paths that we're observing in the book, Anna and Levin. So, just to preface, I'm going to be talking about the book as a whole. This review will be full of spoilers, so if that bothers you, don't watch, but if you don't mind, you know. This book is so long and there's so much I want to talk about. It's kind of intimidating to think about where to start, just because there's so much goodness in here, and I'm not gonna have time to talk about it all or to do it justice, but I'm just gonna talk about the things that stood out to me the most while I was reading it. I think what I love most about this book is the iconic imagery. I think there are so many iconic events, like when Vronsky is horse racing, or when Levin is ice skating, or mowing the fields, and the moment when all of the women are making jam. There are also iconic objects, like the chalk that Kitty and Levin use to confess their undying love for each other. And the train, there's a lot of symbolism there. And of course, the hayrick. I don't think it gets any more iconic than the hayrick. Levin sleeps on the hayrick after a hard day's work, and he realizes that he is in love with Kitty and that his entire world has changed and his fate has been decided that night. The language is so dramatic and the occasion is so momentous for the character that it's hard not to be swept up in the moment and moved while you're reading it. I love the humor and the tragedy, the observations about life, the family dynamics, the micro expressions, the social commentary, and the in-depth thought processes of the characters. Tolstoy is a genius, there's no doubt about that. And the realism is uncanny. As I was reading the book, I found myself saying, I've thought that, I've said that, I've done that, I've seen other people do and say those things. And that's what makes this book timeless, because humans never change. There's a particular moment with Levin that I wanted to read and then explain why it's so significant to me. It all happened at the same time. A boy ran towards a dove and glanced smiling at Levin. The dove, with the whir of her wings, darted away, flashing in the sun, amid grains of snow that quivered in the air, while from a little window there came a smell of fresh baked bread, and the loaves were put out. All of this together was so extraordinarily nice that Levin laughed and cried with delight. So I've done that. I've had moments where I'm driving with the windows down and I'm looking at the sunset and I'm feeling the breeze, or I'm walking down the street and it's raining and it's freezing cold, and I look up and I see this amazing, majestic mountain view that looks so mystical and haunting. And these moments are so perfect, and certain things just combine, and I'm just overwhelmed with happiness. And I'm overwhelmed by how perfect and beautiful it is and how amazing life can be. So yeah, I relate a lot to Levin in the way that he observes the world and appreciates life. The book flows so well, it's so well written, it's just amazing. So I want to talk a little bit more about the characters. Vronsky, the man that Anna is having the affair with, is just the ultimate villain. He's so selfish. Anna's son, Sergei, who is also the son of Anna's husband, Karenin, is the most pathetic character of all time, in my opinion. I just feel so bad for him when I'm reading things about him, because he's really just being ignored by both of his parents, and he knows that something's going on, but he's also not old enough to really understand everything that's going on. It's just sad that he's caught in the middle of it and that he's suffering because of something that is outside of his control. It really affects him, and it will affect him in the future, even though we don't really see that. We only see him as a child, but we know that in the future this is going to have a lasting impact on him. There's this one part where it says, "He was 9 years old, he was a child, but he knew his own soul. It was precious to him. He guarded it as the eyelid guards the eye, and without the key of love, he let no one into his soul." So he becomes really guarded, puts up these walls at 9 years old, which is sad. It's sad to think of a 9-year-old as being bitter and pardoned, but it truly is a result of Anna and Karenin and their actions toward each other. And I think that's really interesting because Anna's whole thing is that she feels unloved and she feels neglected, but now she's doing the same thing to her son, and I don't think she even realizes it because she does love her son. She says that at multiple points in the book, but she doesn't really show it. And so I think it's very interesting that the lack of love, which is her source of despair and is the driving force in all of her decisions, I think it's interesting that she's doing the very same thing to her son. She's just neglecting him. So yes, Anna herself is horribly selfish, and yet she's still likable and relatable. And I like the part where we see more of her personality when she goes on her vacation with Vronsky and they go around looking at art, and we see more of her tastes and her perspective on life and on her interests and hobbies. I also love the part where we get Anna's perspective on why she cheated on her husband, and it's because she felt neglected. So she's talking about her husband here. They say he's so religious, so high-principled, so upright, so clever, but they don't see what I've seen. They don't know how he has crushed my life for 8 years, crushed everything that was living in me. He has not once even thought that I'm a live woman who must have love. They don't know at every step he's humiliated me and been just as pleased with himself. Haven't I striven with all my strength to find something to give meaning to my life? Haven't I struggled to love him, to love my son when I could not love my husband? But the time came when I knew that I couldn't cheat myself any longer, that I was alive and that I was not to blame, that God had made me so, that I must love and live. And now what does he do? If he'd killed me, if he'd killed him, I could have borne anything, him being Vronsky. I could have forgiven anything, but no, how was it I didn't guess what he would do? He's doing just what's characteristic of his mean character. He'll keep himself in the right, while me and my ruin will drive still lower to worse ruin yet. He wants to go on torturing me. I'll break through the spider web of lies in which he wants to catch me. Come what may, anything's better than lying and deceit. So I think it's such an interesting contradiction that Anna is done with lying and deceit when what she did was lying and deceitful. Her infidelity in itself is a lie to her marital vows. And I just find her a very sad, pathetic character, that she's so blind to her own hypocrisy. And I also feel really bad that she feels so abandoned and neglected and unloved by her husband. And he definitely should have done a better job and done his part in making her feel loved and appreciated and wanted. But at the same time, that doesn't really give her the right to cheat on him since she made a promise. So I think they're both in the wrong. But yeah, she says repeatedly that she is alive. She's not just some pretty portrait or some pretty bust. She's not a trophy wife. She wants to be appreciated as a person. She wants to be talked to and acknowledged, and I think every human has that right, so I totally understand where she's coming from. But I also understand where Anna's husband, Karenin, is coming from. He is, I think, understandably cold towards Anna after he learns about the affair. And at one point he says that she has spattered him with mud in her fall, and he has to find a way to get rid of the mud. He's not thinking about her, he's thinking about how what she has done has affected him. There are a lot of selfish characters in this book. Karenin is bitter and he wants to see Anna punished for her infidelity, and he really doesn't want to see her happy with Vronsky. And he gets what he wants, ultimately, because Anna is not happy with Vronsky, despite what she tells herself. She likes Vronsky because he fills her with excitement and passion, and she gets swept up in the romance of it all. But that fire eventually fades, and she's left realizing once again that she's not being properly loved. At one point, Anna is yelling at Vronsky, and she says that respect was invented to cover up the spot where love is supposed to be. So after all that, after not having love from her husband and then cheating on him and now not feeling love with Vronsky, she still doesn't have what she wants, and she's just miserable. And the realization that she doesn't have the type of love that she really wants, that she's been craving with Vronsky, is the final breaking point for her. So those are the more bad characters, even though, you know, Tolstoy doesn't write bad characters. Like, everyone is nuanced, and I think that's one of the main things that I love about Tolstoy. But the characters who do a lot of bad things, I guess is how I'll word it. I've talked about them, Anna and Vronsky and Karenin, but now I want to talk more about some characters who don't really do that many bad things and who I really enjoy reading about and who are mostly good people, but also they have their faults and flaws, obviously. Oh, but one more bad character I want to talk about, I just remembered. Oblonsky is Anna's brother, and he is a very fascinating character. At first glance, I hated him because he cheated on his wife, Dolly, or Daria, she's called both names. And I was just obviously really frustrated with him, ashamed of him. I was feeling bad for Dolly for the way that she was treated. But then later, as I get to know Oblonsky better, I really admire the way that he handles his friends and the way that he refers to himself as a molder of the social clay. And I think that that is a true talent. I think that not everybody knows how to mold the social clay and to make people feel comfortable and to bring in different people who wouldn't necessarily know that they would be friends because he knows their separate interests and knows how to make connections. So I think he's a very perceptive individual. He's a cheating dog, so he doesn't get a pass for that. But he has these kernels of wisdom. And he says some really deep and profound things about life and human nature throughout the book. Okay, so that's all the bad characters. Now I want to talk about the good characters. So Kitty is Levin's love interest, and she is just so sweet and wonderful and angelic. I think the moment where she really shines is when she helps Levin take care of his dying brother, Nikolai. And, she's such a trooper. She's in there in the trenches, helping him, helping Levin. And when Nikolai eventually dies, because Kitty is there with her love saves Levin from despair. And the love between Levin and Kitty grows even stronger after this event. What I really love about Kitty and Levin and their relationship is how they get each other. They understand one another in a way that the other people in their life don't. And there's a part that says, she had completely guessed and expressed his badly expressed idea. Levin smiled joyfully. He was struck by this transition from the confused, verbose discussion with Pestov and his brother to this laconic, clear, almost wordless communication of the most complex ideas. So it's easy with her. It's easy to talk to her, and it's easy for her to understand him in the way that he sees the world. And that's why they're so perfect together. So Levin grows a lot in this book. His growth is very compelling. Not only is he trying to be a better person in the way that he treats his loved ones, but he's also trying to be a better master to his servants. And he's trying to make life better for his serfs. He's becoming more conscientious and aware of other people's needs and isn't taking the class distinctions for granted. So in his attempt to make life better for his serfs, he has to come to terms with the fact that the machine has to be mended while in motion. And first of all, I just love how alliterative that sentence is, but also I love just the concept that he wants to make a change, but he can't stop the world from moving and running, and he's just one person. And so he can make changes, but it's going to take time, and he's going to have to grapple with the fact that other things are going to be happening while he's trying to make a change, and that other people are not going to change even though he wants to. So I think he does a lot of maturing when he tackles this conflict. I also love when he says, I have only to go stubbornly on towards my aim, and I shall attain my end. And it's something to work and take trouble for. This is not a matter of myself individually. The question of the public welfare comes onto it. The whole system of culture, the chief element in the condition of the people, must be completely transformed. Instead of poverty, general prosperity and content. Instead of hostility, harmony and unity of interests. In short, a bloodless revolution, but a revolution of the greatest magnitude, beginning in the little circle of our district, then the province, then Russia, then the whole world. Because a just idea cannot but be fruitful. Yes, it's an aim worth working for. So I think that really explains the sentence, the machine must be mended while in motion. And he's aware of the process and he's aware that it's going to take time. But at the same time, he knows that it's a worthy goal, it's a worthy ambition, and he really feels the truth of it in his heart. I love how ambitious and driven he is. He's an inspiration for sure. So my favorite character in the book is Daria, or Dolly. I just admire her so much as a woman, as a mother. I think she's just incredible. I love how she stays resilient and strong even after her husband has cheated on her. And I love that she finds peace and comfort and love in her children. I also really like her relationship with Levin. I feel like they have a good friendship going. And at one point in the book, she says that she really admires his perceptiveness and his delicacy. And she likes the way that he interacts with her children. And I think that she's instrumental in helping Levin learn the type of person that he wants to be. Dolly has so many great lines, and I love when she's coming to terms with the fact that her husband has cheated on her and is trying to move on and still find joy and happiness in life. I love the analogy that she creates with sand and gold. Those joys were so small that they passed unnoticed, like gold and sand, and at bad moments she could see nothing but the pain, nothing but sand. But there were good moments too, when she saw nothing but the joy, nothing but gold. So I think that imagery and that metaphor is very beautiful. And it's a good reminder that there will be days when all you can feel is the pain and all you can do is focus on the bad things that have happened in your life. But at the same time, there will be golden moments when you're full of joy and you're just in the moment and you're happy and you're not thinking about all of the horrible things that have happened to you in the past. I think the reason why Dolly is my favorite character is because she has a line that I think is the crux of the entire novel. She says, "I always loved you, and if one loves anyone, one loves the whole person, just as they are, and not as one would like them to be." So she's saying that to Anna, and I think that's a real comfort to Anna to realize that even though she has made mistakes, Dolly still loves her. And I think it's so sad that in this moment, Anna is receiving that love that she always wanted, that unconditional love. She's getting it from Dolly, but it's still not enough. And it's so sad to me that Anna decides to end her life. It's just tragic that she had the love. Dolly was giving it to her, and she was still so blind, still so caught up in her own spider web, like she said at the beginning of the book. She couldn't see it, and it's really sad and heartbreaking, but also so beautifully written. Tolstoy, I mean, I've said it before, everyone has said it before. It's just the truth. He is a genius. But what Dolly is saying about how true love is unconditional and it's loving a person no matter what, I think that's something that all of the characters in the book need to hear. And I really think that's the main theme of the novel, or at least one of them, or at least the theme that stuck out the most to me. Okay, so the one part of this book that is so frustrating to me and that makes me so mad every time I think about it, and that I wish was different, but at the same time I understand why it can't be, is the fact that Varenka and Sergei, Levin's brother, don't end up together. It's so frustrating because they're so perfect together, and I love the scene where they're picking mushrooms together and Tolstoy describes the blue and yellow scenery, and it just feels like a Van Gogh painting. And it's so beautiful, and they're obviously in love with each other, and they're flirting, and they're having this beautiful conversation. And there are so many moments where you're like, oh, is he gonna propose? Oh, is she gonna tell him she loves him? And it never happens. And the moment passes, and it's just, it's so frustrating. But I understand why it had to happen, because that's just the type of people that they are. They're not gonna act on the moment. They're not going to get swept up in the romance. They're both too practical and too limited and restrained. I think Varenka is restrained by societal rules, but I think that Sergei is limited by his own intellect, because throughout the book he's having these intellectual conversations with Levin where he's trying to show off his brain and show that he has everything figured out. And I think he gets too caught up in that in this moment. Instead of turning off his brain and turning on his heart for Varenka, he's still caught up in his intellectual cloud. The fact that they don't end up together makes me really sad, because I think they would have been great together. That's the one thing I would change, maybe. But at the same time, I understand the themes that are trying to be explored and expressed through their not being together. But I think what I got from their love not working out is that I don't want to let moments pass by. I want to seize the moment when I'm in it. So Anna and Levin are the two protagonists of the story. Anna's story has a tragic end, while Levin's story has a hopeful end. Anna dies and Levin is reborn. Anna lived only for herself, and Levin lived for his loved ones and the servants he had stewardship over. The book ends with Anna being in utter despair and ultimately nothingness, while Levin, his ending is that he finds God. He finds true religion after years and years of doubting and unbelief. He finally finds his faith, and While Anna's end is a wall, an absolute end, Levin's end is infinite. There really is no end for him because he'll go on having faith, growing, exploring, learning, and becoming a better person. Anna and Levin are the two sides of this incredible book, and their journeys are both so important to understanding human nature and to understanding what life is really about, and in discerning the type of life that the reader wants to live. And I can't say enough good things about this book. It is incredible and wonderful and has pretty much every life lesson you'd ever need to learn. And I'm just in awe of it, and I love it so much. And that's all I have to say about it for now. I could go on and on, but I'll stop myself there. So thank you so much for watching.